It's necessary from that. You can't always depend on the circumstances of your actions, of your physical actions. There's always a possibility that something that you apply which you believe is going to get the desired effect doesn't quite work out to plan. Therefore, it's essential to have this backup of a good support system which comes from your cross training. You must be able to cover any and all eventualities, whether they be vertical or horizontal. You don't know where you're going to end up. Instinctively, in a confrontation, people will do one of two things: either try and back away and distance themselves, or come in and grab hold. You've got a chance of ending up on the floor. If you end up on the floor, whole different ball game, especially when dealing with more than one person. With your cross training, you need to be able to blend different styles, systems and concepts. What they've got to do is be formulated to suit you as an individual. What works for one person doesn't necessarily work for the person at the side of you. You've got to be able to get a comprehensive view of the fighting systems, whether it be from judo, jiu-jitsu, boxing, Muay Thai, street fighting, anything that is going to be absorbed for the positive to influence you and what feels comfortable for you to apply is worth doing. Go for it 100%. But make sure that the context of the type of training you're doing is appropriate to the desired effect you want to achieve. As I briefly mentioned on the end of the first video, you've got to consider the effects of the aftermath. We've already covered the moral aspects, possible legal implications. The main thing, feel justified in what you've done, the way that you've dealt with it. Not just from a legal point of view, but from a personal point of view. There's nothing worse than handling a situation badly and then beating yourself up mentally over it for months or years after, thinking that you should have handled it in a different way. Be prepared to accept the outcome, how it's happened. You can't go back in time and change anything. You must be able to analyse the incident, rationally accept or place a responsibility for why the situation occurred in the first place. Accept the possibility of any other consequences, whether they be legal, physical, comebacks, the possibility of the person knocking on your door at 2 o'clock in the morning. Frightening prospects, but things that you've got to consider. But at the same time, don't let them sway you from dealing with the situation properly. It's better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. So I'd rather take that risk any day of the week. The corrosive qualities of the aftermath, people don't understand. Not only do they cause sleepless nights in the short term, insomnia, anxiety, stress, cause you to have displacement and frustration because you weren't happy with what happened, or you're not happy about the possible consequences. Long term, they can have much more devastating physical effects: stomach ulcers, blood pressure, things along those lines. These are situations that are now becoming evident. People are starting to understand that stress-related physical and health conditions can be related to confrontation. In conclusion, you've got to understand reality. Take reality for what reality is, and that is how it happens, not how somebody perceives it to be or somebody who explains it to be. You've got to prepare correctly. Mentally and physically, you've got to be up to the task. When you feel like you can't persevere with something, whether it be part of your training or another aspect of your life, you've got to persevere and push through. Everything you do is habit forming and character building. If you can't develop a strong character and good habits, you've got no chance when the situation demands it to suddenly materialise those qualities. They just won't happen. They're built over a long period of time. Understand your cross training. Do it from the right angle. Do it so it suits you as an individual. Understand your enemy, the psychological composition of the person you might have to deal with. You imagine the worst sort of violent act, something that you would consider nobody will be able to execute. The fact that you just thought of it means that somebody can do it. You've got to be prepared for that person. Prevention is always better than cure. It's no good being spurred on by the fact that you've been physically assaulted as just an excuse. Don't wait for that to happen before you start taking preventative steps for your personal safety. But prepare for the aftermath. It's a big killer. It isn't something that people contemplate. The main emphasis and the main theme of these videos is to be switched on. Take notice of what's happening around you. Be aware of the type of person who is in your environment. If there's a sudden change in your environment, be conscious of that and take steps to preserve your safety. Don't let somebody get the blind side to you. Be aware of what's happening around you. Ultimately, be safe.